We need to see your feet.
Can you see my feet?
Not quite. Yeah, we can't see the front of your mat, sweetie.
Oh, I see the full view in my computer.
Yeah.
Is that better?
And we're not muted.
Oh, I think you unmuted yourself. Okay, how's that? Okay, turn your head to the right, all the way to the left, right, and the left. Then take your ear to your shoulder, deep breath, and just let it open up. And other side. And take it into a big circle, all the way around. And reverse. And then into shoulder rolls, up and forward and around. And backwards. Then take it into a big shoulder circle, right arm going up, turning your pinky finger so that it's going back. Keep a straight chest and let that arm go all the way around. Find the range of motion that feels okay for you. That may be a little more out to the side, then all the way back. Let it pull on the bicep and the chest. And forward, up and around. Feeling that big range of motion come into your shoulder. Leading with the thumb, turning it pinky forward as you come around. Thumb going out, up and around. And second side, thumb going up, turning the hand back, taking it into that circle, exploring that big range of motion. Our shoulders are amazing for having more shallow sockets so that we have greater range of motion. We need to use that. Make sure that that whole available range is something we have access to. As you do that, bringing good joint lubrication into there, up and forward and around. When we have greater range of motion, we sacrifice some stability. So it's important to work on both range and how stable that joint can be so that we can do things like pick up a ball and throw it and allow the arm to do the range that it needs to. Hands going forward, elbows slightly out to the side, and then rotate that arm. So again, moving it into the most open position for that joint. The greater greatest ability for the arm bone to spin in the shoulder socket, out and in. When we work the rotator cuff like this and just reminded of its job with the shoulders open, collarbones wide, and then exploring this external rotation of the arm bone, then if we went to pick up a ball and throw it like that, we've already done that action, those muscles are already awake, versus if the shoulder is forward and we ask it to do that, and those muscles have been asleep for some time because they have been held so tight in the front of this capsule, then there's a possibility for injury. So we want to make sure that the shoulders are on your back and that the arm bone has rotated and the rotator cuff, those four muscles in the back side of the shoulder, is awake, alive, active, supported, stabilizing. Five more. Excellent. Now, hip hinge over. And I just want you to do a couple, slight bend at the knees, hips going backwards. So feet hip width apart, the outside of your hips, so they're slightly wider. And then just warm up that mechanism by bending forward. As you bend forward, let your hips go back, knees behind the ankles, hips behind the knees, and start to feel your low back and your glutes turn on, and then come back up, down, and up. Letting all of the muscles around your hip and pelvic girdle begin to turn on, activate, align, keeping your spine stable as you do this. Now stay in that hip hinge. We're going to add your arms. So arms up in a cactus position, like this. Knees bent, hips back. Feel your glutes holding you there. Feel your hamstrings, back of your legs, pulling you back. Lengthen your body forward. And then reach your arms all the way up. And then back down. Let's do 10 of those. Find your breath. Move with your breath. Reach. Letting the shoulder blades slide up toward your ears. And then thinking about the bottom edge of the shoulder blade coming back in and down toward your spine. The whole shoulder girdle gets to slide forward. That should let your hips go back a little bit more and then come back down. If you're feeling this in your low back, that's fine. Turn your glutes on a little more. See if they can take a little more of that action. Feel your breath. Breathe into your back body. See if it can swell up right above your kidneys into the bottom lobes of your lungs. And stand all the way up. Step to the top of your mat. Come back into a lunge. Let's go left foot forward, right leg back. Lunge. And then peel your upper body up. We're going to begin to work into that psoas a little bit. Upper body up. Reach your arms to the sky. And then bend over to the left side, letting the length come into the right. From the connection in the low back all the way to the inner thigh. Inhale, come up. Now imagine you're holding a ball in your hands, a huge ball, and then rotate to the right and try to hand that ball behind you to someone else. And then lift it up, and then over to the left. Rotate, hand the ball behind you to someone else. Inhale, come up one more time, each direction. Over, rotating your spine. Inhale, lift. Exhale, over. Inhale, lift. Step to the top of your mat. Second side. Right foot forward, left foot back, lunge. Peeling your upper body up, feeling the inner thigh all the way into the low back. Kidneys back, rib cage back, full stretch. Find your breath. Now lean to the right. Just open up that side body. Inhale, come up, and then hand the ball back to someone behind you, rotating your spine. Keep that stability by hugging your front heel and your back foot towards each other. Rotate other side. Inhale up, back, up. Last one. And up to the top of your mat. Step your feet back again, go back into that hip hinge. Glutes working, hips working. So we've lengthened the psoas. Now we're actually gonna go into this little bend here. And it's interesting because we're in hip flexor, it's counterintuitive that this actually can release the hip flexor as well. But when all the other muscles here start to turn on, then the hip flexors can actually soften. So find this, glutes behind the knees, knees behind the ankles, lengthen your spine, pull your ribs up, and then go into that cactus arm position again. 10 more. Reaching full, arms out, full stretch, back in. Find your breath. Are both glutes working? And stand up. Back to the top of your mat. Right foot forward, left foot back. This time send that left foot way back there. We're gonna go into one more twist here. Hip hinge forward, taking your left elbow to your right knee. Hands into prayer position. Then press from the low belly up away from the thigh, and then turn your ribs and chest toward the ceiling. Maybe that top arm reaches to the sky, holding that muscular energy connection from your feet into your pelvis, into your back. Find your breathing. This arm could also turn backward and hook behind your back and open that shoulder a bit more. Breathe. Untwist. Step to the top of your mat. Switch sides. Left foot forward. Right foot going back. Taking the right hand, right elbow to the left knee. Hands into prayer. Then use that pressure on your hands, that muscular energy, to pull your low belly up off the thigh and turn. Maybe this arm reaches to the sky. This right hand is still pressing into that knee. Breathe and hold. Take your hand back behind you if you choose. Open it up a little bit more. Big breath. Into the kidneys, into the back body. Turn a little more open. And untwist. Step to the top of your mat. Nice job. Let's work those hips. Right foot on the ground. Stabilize. Left foot coming up. Torso stable. Hip flexion. Then turn the ankle to the outside and take the knee back behind you, keeping your heel hugging up towards your glutes. Squeeze it in. Imagine that there's a small hurdle that you have to get back up and over, around. Good. Torso stable, out. Internally rotate the leg, back, push it around, and out. Clear the hurdle, pull it back in. Out, rotate, around, and back. One more. And release. Second side, bring that leg up, hip flexion, out, rotate, keeping the heel hugging toward the glute, pulling it around, keeping that squeeze, find that hurdle. So, dog piece on a fire hydrant, up and around, back into center. Rotate that ankle high, wide, rotate. Clear the hurdle, go behind you. Lift, back over that hurdle, pull it back around. Out, rotate. This standing leg is doing a lot, keeping that medial glute working, everything stable on this stable spine while this hip gets to do this work. One more. And release. Okay, I want you to turn on the muscles in your trunk a little bit by doing just some like quick punches. So slight bend at the knees, glutes on, hips back, and you're just gonna like, almost like you're running in place. Just let your arms go and feel your torso have to turn on and stabilize. Keep going, move your arms vigorously, stabilizing muscles of the spine, turning on. Your heart rate should be going up a little bit. 10 more seconds. Excellent. Now add a little squat to that. Make it like an uppercut, down, uppercut. So we're coordinating the squat hip movement into that. Getting your heart rate to come up a little bit. Squat, uppercut, squat, uppercut. Four, three, two, and one. Nice. Begin to take that into a deep squat. Heels on the ground. If you need to put your hands on the chair or on the block to do that, that's fine. Feet wide. And root your heels as much as you can and start to work that deep squat a little bit. Now, if you're limited by your knees, just go to whatever level feels appropriate for you. If you can, take it all the way down and start to lift your upper body up, work on it. Breathe. There's a lot of coordination that has to happen to get into this full squat. Your hips have to rotate. Your knees have to be in good alignment and have good spacing. Your ankles have to be flexible enough to let that happen. Find your own edge and just hang out there. And then slowly, 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 come on up. We're gonna go back to a rotation. So, into a bit of a squat, hips back, spine again really stable. Think of length in your spine, neutral spine here. So nothing has moved in my spine, there was no rounding. I'm in neutral, I'm staying in neutral. And then I'm just gonna twist, taking my right hand to my left knee, and then open this arm to the sky, hips pulling back, butt muscles like catcher's mitts, pulling your thigh bones back into the socket, and then back to neutral, Switch to the other side, find your breath, open this way. Notice, do you have a big difference from one side to the other? Switch, open. We're gonna do 5 on each side. Letting the rib cage come around, letting your shoulder blade move. How is your spine rotating today? That's 3. 4. And 5. Big breath. Exhale, fully feel the abdominal muscles squeeze in, obliques twisting. Back to neutral. Last one, last side. Open. And release. Come down onto your hands and knees, cats and dogs. Round and arch, move through this 10 times. And then have a seat. 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. Into this split hip position. I want you to walk it forward, so pressing the front thigh down into or the front shin down into the floor. The more you pull your pinky toe side back, that will help protect the rotation or lack of rotation at the knee. I don't want a ton of rotation to happen at the knee. I want it to happen all the way up at the hip mostly. So you can pull the ankle back to limit the rotation in the knee and the ankle. And then from there, walk it forward. Feel the glutes release, open it up. And then press down through this front shin and use that to come back up. Keeping your torso in neutral. So notice the tendency to want to go into extension and have enough abdominal support that that doesn't happen. So the spine is just going forward and coming out as a unit. Down, breathe, and then lift. Down, breathe, lift. 2 more. And then bring that leg forward. Before we switch to the other side, I want you to now take this, moves my right leg forward, cross it over the left. And you may need to take this left hand behind you. And if this hip is tight, you lean back away from it and just use that to open it up. Or maybe you can sit more up. In yoga, this is fire logs. 1 ankle just above the other knee and feeling the tightness in that hip as it comes down. Again, you can move out to the side or come on up to it. Okay, now I want you to bring your elbow to your knee or your forearm to your knee and press up. So my knee's coming towards my body, press up into it And that's gonna engage my adductor. And then press gently down toward the floor. So again, like that drawer that needs a little push-pull to get to move, sometimes this hip needs a little push-pull. So push the knee up into your hand. You can come say hi. Oh, there we go. Just have somebody come sit on it. Up and down. Lift, push that knee in toward you. Okay. Press the knee in toward you, then press it gently down to the floor, moving it back and forth in that hip, and then give it a moment just to breathe. Say hi. Hi, good morning. Thank you. Okay. Switch sides, back to that first one. So take this leg behind you now, turn forward. Front, one leg folded in, one leg folded back behind you. And then flexing this front ankle so that, again, the rotation happens at the hip and it's stable at the knee. Bending forward, keeping your spine really stable, and then pressing that leg hard down into the floor so that you can lift up on it. Down, breathe, and up. This is the kind of stuff that I say, we're listening to the body, but we're also kind of asking for a little more today. I hear you hips, you're a little bit tight, but I want you to open up. Over. And lift. One more. Over, hang out there. Full deep breath. And exhale completely. And come on up. Then facing forward, coming into fire logs. Ankle directly over the other knee. And once again, you can sit back into that hip if that helps to create a little bit more space or more opening. And when you're ready, come to seated with both butt cheeks on the ground. Then take your left hand to your left knee or forearm and create that resistance by pressing the knee toward your body. So that should move the sit bone away from you. It moves the femur bone out, and then gently press it down toward the floor. That should move the sit bone closer to you, and the femur bone should rotate more externally. Then press it up and in, slight internal rotation, sit bone goes wider, then down, sit bone comes closer to your tailbone, that leg externally rotates and moves more into the hip socket. Now, if you had a degenerative hip where it was really up into the socket and bone on bone, gentle rotations like this might feel okay, but this position of externally rotating the leg bone puts the femur bone higher into the socket, and sometimes that might not feel so good. So just be aware of when things are not so great for your body. If you knew that you had a bone-on-bone hip, I would say this, I would be cautious in this position. Putting it here might be okay, and then just breathing into it, but I wouldn't do like real big rotations unless you tried it and that helped to open it up or lubricate the joint space. This is the part where you have to be able to experiment in your own body and feel what's appropriate. But just knowing the mechanism of the femur bone going up into the socket, then drilling it higher into the socket is generally not what we want to do. We want to keep making more space in there. Okay. Take both legs out. And take them wide. Thighs tight, press your thigh bones down into the floor, arms out to the side. Twist your body again, exhale over, reaching toward your toe, other hand going behind you, lowering your body down towards your knee, find length. All the way, pressing the bottom heel down over there into the thigh bone, down, root that, like that whole leg has cement in it. And then inhale, come on up. Exhale, over to the other side. Now that leg roots down, pour cement, keeps it heavy, letting the twist happen from the inner thigh. May feel it in the adductor, all the way up, reach, full breath. Big breath in, big breath out. How is that in your body? Come on up. Other side. Rotate over. Breathe. You can use this back hand down on the floor over here to push down, and that will help lift this right side rib cage back or up toward the ceiling. That lets the spine rotate around more so you can clear your pelvis. Inhale, come up. Now this time, left hand comes down on the side, left hand pushes down into the floor so the left side of your rib cage can rotate and lift to the sky, and the right side can keep coming around and down toward the floor. Breathe. Inhale, come up once more to each side. Cross it over. Exhale over. See if you can go down a little more. Breathe. And last time, last side, big rotation over. And then come down onto your back, bringing your legs in. We're going into a crocodile twist. Legs out straight on the floor, arms out straight on the floor. Bring your left heel on top of your right toes. From the inner heel on the left foot, let that start the rotation. Rotation goes up through the inner thigh, all the way into the inner hip, and lets that whole body turn. Look to your left, hold and breathe. Allowing the oblique muscles that cross your torso right here to pull. They make that V. So the right side or right to left is having to shorten, the other side is having to lengthen as your body goes into that twist. Untwist, switch sides, right heel, left toes, from the right inner heel, up the right inner thigh, all the way into the inner hip. Look to the left, or look to the right, I mean. Hold that rotation, thighs tight, butt tight. Breathe. Untwist. Both feet on the floor, pelvic tilts. Going back, letting the tailbone and sit bones get narrow, go flat back all the way to the floor,
and then take the sit bones down into the floor and wide, and let the arch come into your back all the way up, and then all the way flat. Sit bones get narrow, back goes flat, tailbone pulls toward the pubic bone, and then lift the tailbone into the floor, down into the floor, sit bones go wide, more space in the low back. Back and forth a couple more times, coordinating that action. And then take your sit bone to neutral, so rooted into the floor, and then cross the right ankle over the left knee. Flex your foot, and then pull the left foot in toward you. Pelvis staying in neutral, slight curve in your low back, tailbone down into the floor, shoulders underneath you. Soften your shoulders, let there be no tension. If you do feel tension in your shoulders, go into the tension for a moment and then see if you can release out of this. This is a hip exercise. Your shoulders don't need to help you right now. Push and pull. Spine stable. Enough tone in your belly that that's keeping your spine stable. Find that balance between stability in your trunk and the ability to take a full breath. Release it down, switch sides, pull it in. Once again, pelvis heavy to the floor, neutral spine, enough tension that you're being able to hold that and still allow the full inhalation and exhalation to come into your body. The ability to have tension in one place and still take a full breath is this delicate balance we need to keep working on. So find it here. Notice where the breath moves. See if you can bring it more into the back body. And release this down. Both legs up into a table, holding enough tension in your belly. You can stay here with the head and neck long, or you can crunch. Low back in neutral, still slight curve in your low back, crunching up, holding, chin tucked, lifted, one foot going down, pull it up, other foot going down, pull it up. Little bit of abdominal support. Let's do 10 of these on each side. Breathing. See if you can curl up enough into a crunch if you're doing that part to get to the bottom of your shoulder blades. Maintain a flat abdominal wall as best you can. If it gets poochy, then come down a little bit. Try to put a little more arch into your low back. 9 and 10. And release it down. Grab your block. Place your block between your knees. Squeeze and release that block 20 times. Hold about 2 seconds each. Find both adductors, the inside muscles of the legs. Those muscles help determine the position of the thigh bone or femur in the hip socket. That position of the hip in the socket determines how well the hip spins when you're walking. It can change the length of your gait. It can change how well the leg bone separates from the pelvis and how that works all the way up the chain. So just getting this to find those adductors, stabilize the leg, take any rotation that might be left out of your pelvis. That's about 20. Now hold and squeeze. I want you to have attention all the way from the inner heel into the knees, into the inner hip, into the muscles even on the inside of the hip bone, this ASIS bone or anterior iliac spine. That's the psoas, the iliopsoas here, but the iliacus part of that psoas. Letting it pull in. That can make the sit bones go a little wider. Find that adductor, squeeze, keep going, 10 seconds. And then keep holding that, squeeze with constant pressure, stabilize with your belly, 10 lifts, feet just coming up off the floor, no movement in your spine. Lift, lower, keeping that squeeze in, about 6 inches off the floor. As you pull your legs up, let there be no movement of increasing the arch in your back. Lot of abdominal work right here just to keep your spine stable and neutral. Nice. Now without lifting your hips, keep that squeeze in. Just press your feet down into the floor just so that this backside gets turned on, glutes and hamstrings. So it's kind of an isometric. It's not going anywhere. You're not doing a hip bridge right now. Just a press down into the floor and release. Press, release. We went into hip flexion. Now just into a little bit of finding the hip extensors. Press, release. Waking up all the muscles that support the leg bone in the hip socket and the position of the pelvis. Excellent. Take the block away, grab your strap or your belt. Put both legs in and then tighten it down so it's about fist width apart. Feet on the floor, back to neutral, hip bones to pubic bone level, shoulders tucked underneath you. From here, press and release out against the strap. The femur does a little bit of an external rotation here, finding the muscles on the outside of the hip, the glutes into the IT band, those abductors, moving away from the center of your body. If you have a leg bone that sits medial or toward the midline, sometimes the external rotators don't hold your hip in the position it needs to very well. That glute maybe isn't working so well. The deep six muscles maybe don't stabilize. Maybe there's a little labral tear in the hip so that the hip isn't stable in the socket and it sits in a little different position. All of this helps the position change in the hip to get it to be optimal. Finding those medial glutes, stabilizers, and abductors. You should feel this deep in your butt. Have about 5 more presses before we hold it out there. The steady hold or steady press out was one of those first tricks that I learned. You could take somebody with knee pain and put them in a chair and put a strap around their knee and pull out for 2 or 3 minutes till their hips were really exhausted, and it almost always changes or lessens the pain in the knee. It's pretty amazing. Those tricks are good to have when you need someone to feel that changing the position will change the pain, because that can change mindset. Suddenly people have more hope that maybe changing the position of their body can actually reduce the limitations that they're feeling. And what will you do if you have less limitations? What does that look like? Okay, keep that steady pressure out against that strap. Now, 10 hip lifts, spine in neutral, stable, 10 lifts, hip spinning in the socket. If your knees are way closer together than your hips are, you may need to take them a little bit wider so that from the hip bone to the knee is straight out. So we're really encouraging just the hip to spin in that socket. Freeing up that movement with all of this good stability at the low belly through the transverse abdominis. Soften at the shoulders so the shoulders aren't helping, and your neck. And then find those hip extensors again, just pressing out against the strap and down into the floor until you feel your hamstrings and your butt muscles turn on and up. Again, no bridge, just a press, turning them on, both sides. Pressing down into the floor, feel the glute turn on, feel the hamstring activate, release. Hold it long enough that you can feel it happen. And release your strap. Roll onto your belly for a floor block. Let's put it all together today in a floor block. On your belly, pigeon toe your feet. Find the balance in your pelvis between the arch in your back and pressing your pelvis down into the floor. Shoulders coming up toward your ears and then turning your upper arm bone outward. Breathe into your back body, into your shoulders. Holding that external rotation in the arm bone, linking this lengthened position in the body, just like what needs to happen when we're standing. Shoulders in line with the muscles that go down your spine, which align with the butt muscles into the hamstrings. The belly is turned on just enough to keep the stability and allow full breaths. Take your arms out to a 45-degree angle. Hold that one. Forehead just down. Find your breath. And last position, all the way out like a T. Straight out from your shoulders, rotating them down. And then release out of it. You may choose to do a downward dog or
Roll over onto your back, legs up over a bench or a chair, or just out straight. Maybe a few femur rotations, rotating the toes in toward each other and back to just allow your leg bones to root in the hip sockets, and then find your shoulder position tucking underneath you. Settle into a Shavasana. Once you're settled, close your eyes, soften your gaze, and tune into your breath. Notice your breath without trying to change it. Notice also if you feel any tension, and try to soften into the expansion. Inhale through your nose and then exhale through your mouth. Continue to take deep, full breaths. As you breathe, become aware of the state of your body and the quality of your mind. Let your breath become more smooth and effortless, and begin to breathe in and out through your nose. Feel the flow of the air moving into your lungs and then back out into the world. With each exhale, imagine you're releasing any negative thoughts that might be lingering in your mind. Inhale, health, worthiness, that you're enough. Let each inhale draw in self-love, and each exhale release what is no longer serving you. I'm going to give you your 2 minutes to just settle into this and go deeply into the silence. As you begin to surface, stay connected to your breathing. I want to just call in
some mothering energy as we approach Mother's Day, and gratitude to all the mothers, to if you have a mother, to if you had somebody show up to be mothering in some way to you. Take your arms and wrap them around yourself. Give yourself a huge hug. That's from me. And as always, you're welcome to stay and connect deeper into this space as I unmute everyone to take a moment to say goodbye. You could just turn off your computer. Thank you as always for joining and being supported and supportive of all of this community.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you, Kara. That was
Wait, how come some of you are still, there we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Does everybody